Welcome to Cafe Maddy. My name is Maddie, and you're tuning into an emotional food podcast series where you send me an order in story form, and in return, I cook something customized and delicious for you. You can submit your story in the link below in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and you can tell me about something you're going through, any questions you might have in general, and every week I'll carefully pick an order and you get a custom menu along with a podcast about my own life. If you haven't already, you can find this podcast in audio form on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube you'll be able to actually see me talking and cooking as well. So thank you for coming to Cafe Maddy. Take a seat, and wherever you are, make yourself comfortable and let me take your order. So today we have a customer who came all the way from Calgary, Canada. It's an anonymous order, so we will call him our anonymous customer. It says he's 30 years old, and the order starts with a story. It says, at the start of 2020, I met a girl. She was only staying here for a year, and we knew eventually things would come to an end, but we dated for a year regardless. In January 2021, a whole year later, her time here was up and she told me she didn't want to do long distance. So we broke up. By that time, I had started to make life plans to make distance tolerable or as short as possible by choosing a job that would eventually allow me to move to her country. So when we broke up, all of those plans were already in motion, and I ended up with a job I hated, working remote alone in my parents' basement. Now it's a year later, 2022, and I've dated, had other relationships, and I've met incredible people. But I still miss her the most. She's still on my mind every time it goes idle. Professionally, I'm happy now. I have incredible coworkers who are genuinely also my friends. But personally, I still find myself longing for someone from my past. It's an odd space to be in, but here's hoping 2022 is a year where the heart can look forward. I see. So our customer here, I think he has like a craving deep inside for this girl. And when I think of cravings, nothing hits the spot like okonomiyaki. So coming right up is not your regular okonomiyaki, but a Cafe Maddy original recipe called Takonomiyaki. It's still a form of okonomi because in Japanese, okonomi means whatever you want. And so I just added all my favorite stuff, especially that one thing that I love. Shall we start? So let me grab my head of cabbage. Okay, so you miss her even after a whole year. And even if you've healed and recovered from the heartbreak, she's kind of still at the back of your mind. And I totally, entirely understand this, and I can relate because I always seem to take quite a long time getting over people I loved. I thought I was normal until I met some of my girlfriends who literally get up from a breakup and they're okay right away. But I tend to take a while. So I've definitely been in this place a few times where I'm finally happy, healthy, and moved on, but still in the back of my head, I still think about that person. And I want to say it's always that 6-month or 1 year mark after the breakup where out of nowhere it kind of comes like a wave until I'm completely over that person. So here are my thoughts. I think you're in a good place. It's only normal that you miss her. 1 year can be a long time, but also sometimes it's not enough when you've loved someone so much. And it's also not enough when you haven't met anybody else who kind of touch your heart the same way. If you're here after clicking on the thumbnail or title, maybe you clicked on it for a reason. This is something a lot of us contemplated at least once, right? Should I text her? Should I text him? And then we kind of spiral into thinking, oh my God, what if they're dating someone else? Or what if they don't want me back? Honestly, it is kind of mortifying. This kind of rejection, I have to say, it is pretty soul-crushing on top of being embarrassing. I feel like rejection after a breakup sometimes hits you even harder. So, I have gotten back with my ex 3 times. Am I still with him? Nope. It's been a while, but even now when I look back, I'm glad I tried. But only up to the second time. Definitely I regret the 3rd time because after 2 tries, it really gave me a lot of closure. Probably enough for me to move on. But when a 3rd time came around, it really was on me. I should have known better. So the first time we broke up, we had dated about 6 months. And I ended things because I felt like we hit some deal breakers as I was getting to know him. But I did feel like the first time around, I ended things without trying my absolute best. There were pretty clear signs that we weren't compatible, so after 6 months, I just broke up with him. So after going through the breakup, I moved on, and like our customer here, I made new friends, I dated, I got a new job, and I was actually pretty happy and thriving. But of course, I missed him. Even if I knew that he wasn't the one. I don't know. We had like amazing chemistry. We were attracted to each other like crazy. And we had so much fun together. So when he reached back out a year later and a second chance came around for us, I decided to actually give it a try. Instead of labeling some things as incompatibility, I decided to kind of tackle them and fight for the relationship. Thinking back, I honestly knew that it was very likely that it wouldn't work. But if anything, I wanted to stop thinking about the what ifs. As in, like, what if we tried? And I thought it would give me some real closure, you know? So I tried, and we failed. But honestly, really, the closure was so worth it. Because after that, there was really nothing more to try. I couldn't justify any argument in my head to convince myself that it could work again. So, I know what most people will say to you when you open up about this. Honestly, if you're fresh from your breakup, giving it space is a right idea. But if it's been 1 year, like your customer here, and for some reason you're still thinking about them, I think it might be worth giving her a call. Back when I was a heartbroken mess and I asked the same questions to my friend, almost everyone said, "Don't do it, Maddie. People who get back together will always break up again for the same reason." I mean, it sounds valid. It seems to make total sense, right? But one day I kind of wanted to know the real stats on the actual chance of something working out after the second time. And surprisingly, here's what I found out. Some university studies have shown that 37% who are living together now, so who are in a serious relationship, have a history of breaking up. That's almost 40%. And 23% of married couples now have a history of breaking up. And even married couples who have separated and gotten back together, they have a 72% chance of staying together for life. I'll leave the link to the article in the description of this video on YouTube. I would say that that's a significant chunk of people who made it work the second time. Wouldn't you think it's worth a try? If I had known these stats, I would have definitely kind of reconsidered all my second chances that came around. Now it's a question of how much you're willing to risk. Are you ready to go through the heartbreak, the embarrassment, the setback to possibly end up with your lifelong partner? In other words, do you still love her? Do you still love him? So if your answer is yes, I came up with this very simple 5-point guide to texting your ex, okay? This is something I would actually tell all my close friends if they came to me with the same question of, "Maddie, it's been a whole year, but I still miss my ex. I don't know what to do." Obviously, take it with a grain of salt, and this does not apply to abusive relationships whatsoever. Run away from abuse because you deserve better. Okay? So here is the 5-point guide to texting your ex. Number 1, have a list of reasons of why you guys broke up, especially of the last fight that you had with the guy you broke up. It's very, very important to have a written out list. You can't have a mental list thinking, oh yeah, I know it all in my head. But a written out list, preferably on your phone so you can pull it up anytime you need it. This is what I was not equipped with when I got back with my ex the 3rd time. Had I had this handy on me, just pulled up even once, I really would have left us where we were. Number 2, once you have the list, read it out loud. Yep, read it out loud. And see if you still miss them the same way. This is quite an important step because, let's be real, I've been there before where I forgot some of the worst stuff that happened and kept remembering the good times only. And I really believe words are very powerful, and sometimes reading something out loud actually brings out the truth even more. So much more than when you're just reading it in your head. And sometimes reading things out loud actually brings out the truth even more. So much more than when you're just thinking it in your head. And number 3, after you've gone through number 1 and 2, if you feel like those were some things you could have both worked on together or worked through. And important, number 4, if you have confirmed the intention that you want to try again indeed. Number 5, text your ex. And one more thing, please, if you can't answer number 4, as in you aren't sure of your intentions when you hit up your ex, I think it's just disrespectful and selfish to hit them up. If you don't know what you want and still choose to put your ex in a tough spot all over again when they're in the middle of healing, it's not worth it. Let's make sure we know what we want first. And I'm saying this because I've done this to my ex before, and it was quite awful when I realized what I did. So anyways, I'm here to be the voice for you to say, go ahead, text your ex. It's okay even if it's a mistake, and it's okay to make mistakes in general, especially if it's early on in your dating life. And the older and more experience you get, you'll get more clarity on what you want. Worst case, you get heartbreak and closure. Second best, trial and closure. And best case scenario, you'll end up with the love of your life. So here's some Takonomiyaki for you, where I put some Korean rice cakes to the batter with cabbage so that with every bite you get that crispy and chewy texture that'll satisfy your craving and maybe make you miss your ex a little less, you know? Sometimes eating heals. It healed me. I wish the best to our customer from Calgary here. I hope you're listening, and either way, I hope you find your way. Whether it's back to her, or to a new person, or to some other door in life. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to leave a review of this podcast, I would love to hear it. So feel free to comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. And the podcast is on Spotify and Apple Music under the title, the Cafe Maddy Podcast. I also want to do like a little outtakes video on this episode where if you have any experience getting back with your ex, if it was positive, negative, if you would recommend it to a good friend, let me know what your story was like in the comments, and I want to kind of do a video of reading those stories as well. So you guys know the usual, like, share, and subscribe, and most importantly, turn on the notifications or alarm button so you stay tuned for next Friday. Same day, same time. Special thanks for music artist Mr. Hong for the custom track for our podcast. You can hear this track, Okonomi, in one of my videos on the side. And every week at the end of the video, I'll share music that I like that I think you might like too. So we've been building a playlist so far, and we have our third song today, and I will link the playlist right here on the screen. And every week we'll be building a playlist from this podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming by, and good night.